Hey everyone! I know a lot of you have been waiting for this one. Last month I woke up in my aunt's bed, my body aching in places I never imagined, her perfume still clinging to my skin like a guilty secret. How the hell did I end up here? I was just an ordinary 22-year-old college guy, crashing at my aunt's place for the summer because my parents' house was being renovated. Nothing special, right? Until that first night when everything changed. It always seen in Helena as the glamorous, slightly mysterious relative. My mom's younger sister, divorced, successful in real estate, living alone in her big suburban house. She offered me the guest room with a warm smile and said, "Stay as long as you need, sweetheart." I felt grateful, safe, and completely normal. No tension, just family helping family. But living under the same roof turned everyday moments into this constant, quiet closeness. We'd share the kitchen for late-night snacks, standing side by side at the counter while the fridge hummed softly. Her silk robe would brush against my arm when she reached for a glass, and it'd catch the faint warmth of her skin through the thin fabric. We watched movies on the same couch, the cushions dipping under our weight, her shoulder sometimes grazing mine when she laughed at something on screen. She started driving me to campus when my car was in the shop, and the car felt smaller each time, filled with her jasmine and vanilla scent that seemed to wrap around me like invisible hands. I told myself it was nothing. She was just being nice, the way aunts are supposed to be. But every morning she'd glide through the house in those soft robes, her laugh low and easy when I told some dumb joke from class. The house started feeling warmer, smaller, like the walls were slowly pulling us closer without either of us saying a word. I'd find myself lingering in the hallway longer than I needed to, just to hear her humming in the next room. My heart would pick up speed for no reason at all, and I'd shake it off, whispering to myself that this was ridiculous. She was family, my mom's sister. Nothing more. One evening after she got back from running errands, she kicked off her heels and collapsed onto the couch beside me, closer than usual because the remote had slipped between us. Her bare foot accidentally brushed my calf as she stretched, and neither of us moved it right away. The touch was light, innocent even, but it sent this strange electricity up my leg that made me forget what we were watching. I could feel the heat of her body next to mine, the way her breathing had slowed after a long day. She turned her head slightly, her hair falling across her shoulder, and murmured something about how nice it was having someone around the house again. Her voice was soft, almost tired, but it landed in my chest like a secret I wasn't supposed to hear. I swallowed hard, pretending to focus on the screen while my mind raced. "This is just family?" I kept repeating in my head. "She's lonely after the divorce and I'm just company," but my body wasn't listening. There was this pull, this quiet gravity I couldn't name, making the air between us feel thicker. I shifted a little, trying to create space, yet somehow we ended up even closer, her knee now resting lightly against mine under the throw blanket. The scent of her perfume mixed with the faint trace of her day, something warm and sweet that made my throat go dry. Later that night I lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, heart still beating too fast. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak of the floorboards upstairs where her room was. I told myself to stop thinking about the way her robe had slipped just a fraction when she laughed, revealing the soft line of her collarbone. It was nothing, it had to be nothing. But sleep wouldn't come easy, and when it did, my dreams carried that same just pulling me under like a current I didn't want to fight. The next morning she was in the kitchen again, pouring coffee, her hair still messy from sleep. She smiled at me over the rim of her mug, that low laugh escaping when I mumbled something about my first class. "You look like you didn't sleep well, sweetheart," she said, her eyes lingering on mine a second longer than necessary. I felt my face heat up, and for the first time I wondered if she could hear how loud my pulse was in the silence between us. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm when everything holds its breath. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door, telling myself it was just the summer heat making everything feel heavier. But as I stepped outside, I could still smell her on my shirt from where we'd sat so close the night before. And deep down in that guilty corner of my mind, I already knew something was shifting, something I had no right to want, yet couldn't seem to push away. The evening she returned from yoga, the front door clicked shut and the air changed instantly. She was still in those tight black leggings that hugged every curve, paired with a cropped top damp from effort, a faint sheen of sweat tracing along her collarbone like it had been painted there just for me to notice. I was on the couch pretending to scroll through my phone, but my eyes lifted before I could stop them. She caught me mid-star, one eyebrow arching, that playful smile curving her lips as she wiped her neck with the back of her hand. "Like what you see, nephew?" Voice low and warm, adding a wink that made my stomach tighten in a way it never should. I mumbled something incoherent, heat flooding my face, while she laughed softly and headed toward the stairs, hips swaying just enough to pull my gaze along. That night her jasmine and vanilla perfume lingered in the hallway long after she'd showered and gone to bed. I walked past her door twice under the excuse of getting water, each time breathing it in deeper than I meant to. Her words kept replaying in my head, soft and teasing, wrapping around my thoughts until I couldn't focus on anything else. Something inside me had shifted. A heat I had no right to feel, spreading slow and insistent through my chest. It started with small things after that, moments that felt accidental but left me trembling. One night we were watching a movie and she reached for the remote, her hand brushing my thigh, fingers lingering a second too long before she pulled away with an innocent "toops." The warmth of her skin through my shorts stayed with me, pulsing like a secret brand. Then came the evening she stepped out of the shower in her robe, hair still damp, asking if I could rub lotion on her back because her shoulders ached from yoga. "Just family helping family," she said lightly, but when my palms met her skin, so soft, so warm, forbidden in every way, my breath caught. I focused on the motion, telling myself this was nothing, yet every slow circle of my hands made my pulse race harder, the ache building low and deep. I kept repeating in my mind that this was normal, that she was my aunt, that the divorce had left her needing simple comfort. But my body betrayed me with every touch, heat pooling where it shouldn't, my fingers almost trembling against her. She sighed softly once, a sound that sent electricity straight through me, and I had to bite the inside of my cheek to stay steady. When she thanked me and adjusted her robe, it slipped open just a fraction at the neckline, revealing the gentle rise of skin that made my throat go dry. I looked away to late. The obsession grew quietly, stealing my nights. I began noticing everything. The way her hips moved when she walked across the kitchen in the morning, the low laugh she gave whenever I complimented her cooking, how her robe would loosen just enough while she reached for something high on a shelf. Heart hammering against my ribs, whispering into the dark, "Shess your aunt. This is sick. You have to stop." The guilt twisted like a knife, sharp and familiar, reminding me of every family gathering where she'd been the fun. Untouchable relative, yet the next morning her scent on the couch would pull me right back in, that jasmine vanilla warmth sinking into the fabric, making me sit there longer than necessary, breathing it like it could satisfy the hunger growing inside. I fought it, I really did. I'd leave the house earlier for classes, bury myself in notes, anything to break the pull. But then she'd smile at me over breakfast, eyes lingering, and the war inside would flare again, need against shame, desire winning inch by inch. The house felt smaller now, every shared space heavy with what we weren't saying. One afternoon she stretched on the couch beside me again, her leg brushing mine under the blanket, and neither of us moved. The silence stretched, thick and breathless, until she murmured how good it felt to have someone who noticed her. Her voice wrapped around me like smoke, and I felt myself falling further, the gravity too strong to fight. My mind screamed to pull away, to remember who we were, but my body leaned in just a fraction, craving more of that almost touch, that forbidden warmth. And then, as the evening light faded, she turned toward me on the couch, her hand resting near mine, close enough that our fingers nearly brushed. Her eyes meeting mine with something unspoken that made my heart stutter. I couldn't look away from her eyes that night. The air between us thickened until breathing felt like pushing through warm water. She leaned in first, just enough that her breath brushed my lips. Then the family barbecue noise faded downstairs and everything narrowed to the way her body swayed when she tried to stand. Too much wine had made her unsteady on the stairs. My arms went around her instinctively as she stumbled, and we crashed together against the wall. Her curves pressed fully into me, soft heat through thin summer fabric, and time slowed. One heartbeat, two, then her mouth found mine in a kiss that tasted of red wine and secrets we could never take back. "We shouldn't," she whispered against my lips even as her fingers curled into my shirt, pulling me closer. But her body said something else entirely. She led me down the hall to her bedroom door, clicking shut behind us like a final decision. The room smelled of her jasmine perfume mixed with the faint smoke from the grill outside. Clothes whispered to the floor in hurried movements, hands trembling with need and fear at the same time. That night there was no going back. Her skin against mine felt like surrender and sin wrapped together. Every touch carried the weight of family ties snapping one by one. I lost myself in the warmth of her, in the way she held me like I was the only thing keeping her from falling apart after the divorce. Soft sounds escaped her, breathless little catches that made my blood roar. We crossed every line that had ever existed between us, and when morning light crept and I lay there staring at the ceiling, heart pounding with the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same. It happened again and again after that. The guilt came in waves, but so did the hunger. One afternoon my parents were due for dinner any minute, and we found ourselves in the kitchen, her back against the counter, my hands braced on either side of her. "They'll be here soon," I murmured, voice rough even as I couldn't stop leaning closer. She smiled that low knowing laugh and pulled me in for a kiss that left us both shaking. We barely straightened up before the doorbell rang, faces flushed, secrets burning behind innocent smiles. Another time in her car after she dropped me at class, the windows fogged from our quick, desperate moments. "This is just relief for both of us," I told myself afterward, driving home alone. She was lonely. I made her feel desired, harmless. But the guilt crashed in later, lying in my own bed, replaying every second, wondering what kind of person I was becoming. How could something that felt so electric also twist my stomach with shame? Even once on the living room couch with the TV still playing some mindless show. The risk made it sharper, knowing anyone could walk in. Her silk robe had slipped from one shoulder and I traced the line of it with careful fingers, heart hammering against my ribs. Each time the justification sounded weaker in my head. She's family. This is wrong, yet stopping felt impossible when her eyes met mine with that same unspoken pull. Summer classes and my part-time job tried to keep me busy, but every free moment dragged me back to her like gravity I couldn't escape. Family dinners became torture, with my mom sitting right there while Elena's foot brushed mine under the table. Slow, deliberate pressure that sent heat flooding through me. I had to focus on my plate, pretending nothing was happening while my pulse raced and sweat prickled at my neck. The texture of her silk sheets and that jasmine scent became triggers that hit me even in public. I'd be in the middle of a lecture and suddenly remember the way a fabric felt cool against overheated skin, the way her perfume clung to me for hours afterward. The thrill mixed with pure terror of exposure. What if someone noticed the way we looked at each other now? What if the wrong word slipped out during a casual conversation? One evening, after another stolen moment, I stood in the shower trying to wash away the evidence, but the water only reminded me of her hands. Her warmth, the way everything between us had intensified. The ache never really left anymore. It lived under my skin, constant and demanding. I told myself I could control it, that we were being careful. But deep down I knew the stakes were rising higher every single day. Family secrets weaving tighter around us until breathing felt dangerous. And just when I thought the tension couldn't stretch any further, she whispered something against my ear during one quiet, stolen minute that made my blood run cold and hot at the same time. A single sentence that cracked open the fragile illusion we'd built and left me wondering how much longer we could keep pretending this wouldn't destroy everything. One afternoon I was in the hallway, phone forgotten in my hand, when her voice drifted from the half-open door of her room. She was laughing with a friend, that low, husky sound I knew too well. "Achie's so eager," she said, amusement curling around every word. "It's almost cute how obsessed he is with me." The words landed like ice water down my spine. I stood there frozen, heart slamming against my ribs while the conversation continued. Her friend giggling on the other end, Ella not easing back with easy confidence. Was that all I was? A distraction? A toy to fill her quiet afternoons when the house felt too empty? My stomach twisted. The same hands that had pulled me close the night before now felt distant, calculating. I backed away silently, breath shallow, the jasmine vanilla trace of her perfume suddenly too sweet, almost cloying. That night, we lay together again after another moment that left us both trembling. The sheets still carried her warmth. I stared at the ceiling, her head resting near my shoulder, and the fear finally broke through the haze. I felt used, small, like something she picked up when boredom crept in and set down when the thrill faded. Shame burned behind my eyes. How had I let it go this far? How had I handed over every scrap of control without noticing? Yet when her fingers brushed mine under the covers, light as breath, that familiar pull returned. Heavy, magnetic, impossible to ignore. I chose to stay. Even as the doubt gnawed at me, I chose her again. The way she looked at me like I was the only man who truly saw her. The secret electricity that hummed between us in crowded rooms. The confidence she poured into me with every stolen glance. It outweighed the guilt for now. I had gained something I never knew I needed. A sense of power in my own skin. Experiences that made ordinary days feel dull by comparison. But I had lost the clean, uncomplicated love of family. I had lost the version of myself who could sit at the dinner table without feeling like a liar. The ache of that trade lived in my chest, constant and quiet. It was addictive, this dance on the edge. Destructive too. Every time I told myself this would be the last, her laugh would find me across the room or her scent would linger on my shirt after she passed too close, and the hunger would rise again, fiercer than before. I didn't know how long I could balance it, how long before the mask slipped and everything shattered. The days blurred after that. Mornings I woke with her warmth still pressed against me, her breathing slow and even, and did lie there wondering if this was the morning it'd finally pull away. But then she'd stir her eyes half open, and the pull would win, again. So tell me, everyone, if you were in my shoes waking up next to your seductive aunt with her scent all over your skin and the weight of family secrets pressing down on your chest, would you have stopped? Or would you keep going like I did, chasing that dangerous warmth even as it burned? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If you want the even more intimate details of what happened next, and trust me, the tension only tightens from here, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next confession, if I'm still standing. The question lingers in the quiet hours now. What if I had walked away that afternoon when her words first cut through me? What if the ache never quite leaves, no matter how far I try to run?